Hey everybody, it's GauntletX and welcome back to some more Magic Arena. Today we've got another Magic Arena Cube Draft of the June 2021 Cube. The Cube Draft now featuring cards from Strixhaven, the Mystical Archives, Historic Anthology 5, all of that cool stuff. So we've got a pretty nice opening pack here as always, and let's see what we want to pick out of it. So I think there's a pretty decent argument to Crawling Barrens, because this is the kind of card that'll go into literally any deck that we end up playing, and just be solid. Anytime that we don't have any cards to do anything, we can just dump mana into the Barrens and make it a bigger and bigger threat to potentially close out the game. So I do like Crawling Barrens quite a bit, and because it's just a land, it goes into any deck, so that's a really safe pick to take at the start here. Some pretty powerful multicolored cards here. Kolaghan's Command, just absolutely fantastic in an aggressive red-black deck. Just a really great value play, 2 damage to something, destroy an artifact, or 2 damage to something, bring your creature back, or make your opponent discard a card. All of the parts of Kolaghan's Command are great. Mirari's Wake's really good as like a gigantic ramp spell in a green-white deck. There's like a Triumph for doing multicolored stuff, Banalish Marshal for mono-white. Plenty of different options here, but I'm going to play it really safe and really open here and just start with the Crawling Barrens and see where we kind of get led by the rest of the drafters here. And here I might do the same and just take a Stonecoil Serpent, another card that'll go great into literally any deck. Just X mana for an XX, reach, trample, protection for multicolored. Doesn't really matter what you're playing. That's always going to be worth the mana cost for sure. Another pack with some great stuff as always. We have Once Upon a Time, which is a free spell if you cast it early enough in the game to just search through the top 5 for the best creature or land to toss in your hand. Approach the Second Sun is a win condition that is pretty much uncounterable, so really, really good win condition in any deck that can like draw cards consistently every turn, because then you speed this thing up. You cast it and then win the game basically 7 turns later. Unless you have a lot of card draw, then you can win the game really quickly off this card. So that's a really nice game ender that's incredibly hard to deal with. So that's an option. An Axe is great for mono red. Phyrexian Arena is just a great draw spell, and Finality is a pretty good wrath. Yeah, tons of options here. I'm just going to stay nice and open and just start with a completely colorless deck. And I also do just love artifacts and colorless stuff in general, so if they had like a colorless theme where you could draft a bunch of synergistic artifacts and stuff that cares about untapping or creating more artifacts, then that would be a deck I'd be interested in drafting. However, there isn't really any of that going on in this cube. So this time around, Scrap Heap Scavenger isn't exactly completely colorless. We do need the black mana for this card to really be worth it. A 2 mana 3/2 that can't block isn't great unless you actually get to use the 2 mana ability and keep bringing it back. Several strong cards here. I think multiple pretty great cards in green is a good sign for green, so we might head in that direction. Although Bloodsheath's Thirst is really good removal for cheap. 1 mana to destroy a small thing or 4 mana to destroy anything. And I don't love the red or white cards that much here, the best white card being Legion's Landing. So Hornet Queen's a great card to ramp into and stabilize in rampy green decks, and Swarm Shambler and Pelt Collector are great early aggressive creatures with like +1/+1 counters for more stompy green decks. I think I'll just take a Hornet Queen here because I think it's just the strongest card in the pack. It is very, very strong. A really good way to stabilize. And now we've got a couple powerful mono red cards, Experimental Frenzy being the best one, allowing you to just draw a million cards off this thing. It really keeps you fueled in the late game. But Captain Lannery Storm is actually just a really nice aggressive red card for any like 2-colored red deck, because those treasure tokens can help a lot. In terms of green stuff, we have Dragon's Guard Elite, 2 mana 2/2 that just gets bigger and bigger when you cast instants and sorceries, so that's pretty solid. Mouth to Feed is just like okay, 3 mana for a 3/3, and later you can cast Feed from your graveyard to draw a couple cards. Karuga's nice, but you do have to build around it pretty heavily if you want to use it as your companion. But just in the main deck, I mean, a 5 mana 5/4 that draws a card or 2 when it comes in is pretty solid. And Reclamation Stage is good to have main deck Artifact Enchantment Hate. I think I want to try out another one of the new cards here. Go Dragon's Guard Elite, see if we can grab a green deck with like a lot of instants and sorceries, maybe get some good use out of that Magecraft effect. And I think that the best color scheme for that would probably be like green-blue. And I do like the blue cards in this pack. Supreme Will and Voracious Great Shark both work quite well in a deck with a lot of instant speed stuff, a lot of flash. So Great Shark, of course, the 5/4 that can counter an artifact or creature when you cast it, or Supreme Will, which is a counterspell, or an impulse little card draw effect. Look at the top 4. Pick one of them. Although I guess Rimrock Knight for just like green-red aggro would work well with Dragon's Guard Elite, because you do get that Boulder Rush, which would be an instant or sorcery there. I think I'm just going to take Great Shark, maybe go for like green-blue flash creatures here. That is definitely a pretty consistent strategy in the cube. It is usually pretty well represented. Well, I don't really like playing the Wilt here. How's it going, Ryvoke? We did one draft so far. It was 2 and 3 with a green-red ramp deck with Field of the Dead and Golos, all that kind of stuff. So we've done quote-unquote that deck one time here. So in this pack, I think I'm just going to take the best card, because I don't like buying Veil or Wilt, really, for the green-blue deck, so let's just take whatever seems strongest in the other colors. I actually like seeing Ayara and Gifted Aetherborn in here. I think that's a really good sign for Mono Black. We might be able to move it on that. Like Crawling Barrens and Stonecoil Serpent are already a start towards that strategy. I do really like Gifted Aetherborn. 2 mana, 2/3 Death Touch Lifelink, just super, super solid. Now we have Regrowth or Bubble Snare for green-blue. Neither of those are pretty exciting, and we did see a lot of black in the last pack, and quite a few black cards in this pack as well. We can take Heartless Act for a nice cheap way to destroy a creature. Chainer's Edict. This is pretty bad against all of the token decks, and there's a decent amount of them. Like really aggressive Rakdos decks will have a lot of tokens, and then Selesnya decks can have a lot of tokens. So it's really bad in those matchups, but in other matchups this can be pretty great. Heartless Act I think is always going to be good though, but Chainer's Edict has a bigger upside in the right matchup. I think I'm just going to take Heartless Act, play it safe on that one. And Fatal Push is pretty great. Although now again we're seeing some cards that could work in blue-green, mainly just like Thassa's Intervention. It's a counterspell, or it draws a card out of the top X. But Fatal Push is really efficient removal, just 1 mana instant speed, destroy a creature with mana value 2 or less. So, I mean, worst case scenario, this thing can always kill a token. Best case scenario, if you revolt, destroy something that costs 4 or less. Yeah, I like moving in on black a lot here. It seems pretty open, and if you can get like mono black or heavy into black, you can do a lot of fun things with a high black devotion. Just a lot of black costs in your spells. So we'll see if we can get there here. But if not, we could be blue-black, we could be green-black. Could really be anything here. Field of Ruin, it's alright. If we're mono-black, it's not going to be hard to run this card, because we can just play this and use it to kill Field of the Deads every now and then, and worst case scenario, it's not really hurting our mana base. I guess we could take a Nax if we're like red-black Sacrifice, that's a thing, or Primal Might for like green-black. I'll just take the Field of the Ruin here. And Scrap Heap Scrounger, 2 mana for a 3/2, and you can bring it back from the graveyard with black mana, so works fine in a black deck. I'm just going to start taking some dual lands in case we do end up 2 color here. None of those dual lands have black in them, though. Well, we have 2 black-red dual lands and a red card here, so if we want to move into Rakdos instead of mono-black, that is something we can definitely do. As far as our mana goes, at least. But I think now is when I'm just going to start like scooping up black cards really highly and hopefully cutting anybody else off of it here. And then we'll just wheel the off-color cards and see where things go for where we want our second color to be. Although Thief of Sanity is like really good. So maybe we just take Thief of Sanity and go blue-black here. In Cube, this card's really good because it allows you to cast cards out of your opponent's library, so the stronger the cards in their library are, the better this is. And of course, in Cube, all the cards are very powerful. So Thief of Sanity can do some just really absurd things. And we'd be playing the Great Shark and the Thief. Yeah, I'm actually going to scoop up the Thief of Sanity here. I don't think that that 1 mana 2/1's that good in terms of the black cards out of that pack. And Thief of Sanity is just pretty exceptional. Alright, well, I think I'm very happy to try to go into blue-black here when we see, like, Torrential Gearhulk. This card's really good. 6 mana for a 5/6 flash, and you get to cast an instant from your graveyard for free when you cast this. So you cast this, and bam, it comes into play. You get to cast another Hagra Mauling, or it comes into play, you get to cast another Heartless Act or Fatal Push. Works really great with all our black instant speed removal that we have, and it works very well with counter spells as well if we pick some of those up in blue. So Torrential Gearhulk, another really strong blue card. I think we're just moving into kind of a Dimir control deck now. But that Torrential Gearhulk, that thing was a absolute monster back in Standard. When Kaladesh was still around. Okay. What have we here? We got Massacre Worm. Needs quite a bit of black mana to cast this, but can wipe a board and do a bunch of damage to your opponents. That's interesting. We're going to be pretty heavy into black, so we're going to have a lot of black mana, so definitely an option. Tezzeret's here, make some Thopters, draw some cards. Definitely can be good, can be annoying to get through. Brazen Borrower is a nice little piece of instant speed interaction, bouncing something for 2 mana. Then it just comes out and hits your opponent over and over with that 3/1 power. Don't love Sky Sovereign, although it does give you that impact right when it hits the board, even if you can't crew it consistently. But it's going to be pretty hard to crew. I like that Unburial Rites is in the cube, but we're definitely not a Reanimator deck. Yeah, I'm going to go heavier into black than blue here. I'm going to try the Massacre Worm over the Brazen Borrower, but I think both are very strong cards. Definitely very decent cards to scoop up there. Now we have Doomblade in black. I'm going to scoop that up. 2 mana instant speed, destroy an all-black creature. It works great with the Torrential Gearhulk, great with just all of our stuff that cares about doing stuff at instant speed. I think Archmage Emeritus could be pretty strong, although that is one of the new cards from Strixhaven, so I haven't had experience with it using it in the cube. It is also like really small, so if your opponent does have any removal, it will die just like immediately. But if you can get this onto the board in a deck with a lot of just removal spells in your instants and sorceries, you can draw a lot out of it. Maybe it'll wheel, I guess we'll see. I'm definitely taking Doomblade though. Classic removal spell. Very efficient. And ooh, the blue-black command, Silumgar's command. 5 mana to counter a non-creature spell, bounce a permanent, give a creature -3/-3, and destroy a planeswalker. Choose whatever 2 are most relevant to you at the time. Seems super fine to me. I think I'll scoop that up. Would like to wheel, like Feed the Swarm maybe. I guess 8 cards would be out of this pack. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I don't think we're wheeling anything out of this pack. But let's try out the new Silumgar's command. That seems like a pretty powerful, pretty fun card. Now we have Compulsive Research, which is a great draw spell. The Eldest Reborn. This card, the difference between when it's really good and when it's really bad is so high. Like, I really don't like this card that much. A lot of people really like this card. And it is really strong in the right situation, but I feel like this card is one of those cards that is so just polar opposite of when it's incredible and when it's really bad. Because there's a lot of times where your opponent just has a creature token out to sacrifice, and then they just discard a land off of it, and then very, very slowly you reanimate one thing. And when it just does that, it's terrible. But there's also times where they just have one really big creature out, and you kill that, and then they have to discard a good card, and then you bring back their best card from the grave. So it is pretty slow. But it can be like absolutely explosive. It can also do very little. Maybe I've just been unlucky when I've used it, but I feel like most of the time for me it hasn't done a lot. I think I'll take a Salundi Vision here. This is a pretty solid draw spell at instant speed, and it can be a land when we're mana screwed a little. Inscription of Ruin, I guess will be the pick here. Kind of the only card in our colors outside of Malakir Rebirth, which is not good. I mean, it's got the Malakir Mire, so it's got that little bit of synergy with like Field of the Dead in the cube where you want a bunch of lands with different names, but for what we're doing, it doesn't really do anything at all. There's Spider Spawning still in the pack. I really want to draft spider spawning like one time. This is the first time they've thrown spider spawning into the cube, and that seems like just such a fun strategy to try out. It's a strategy all about flooding your grave with as many creatures as possible, then you cast spider spawning and get a ton back. So we have 7 instants, so Brineborn Cutthroat might be pretty good, but also just Castle Vantress is such a great land, giving you that scry in the late game, so even just off your lands, you're still being able to scry through your deck and draw your best cards in the late game. So I'm taking the castle over the Brineborn Cutthroat. I don't know for sure about that pick, but it seems fine. Merfolk Looter's a pretty solid card, although we could take Irrigated Farmland and maybe we go Esper. A little bit of white in here if there's any good white control coming around. Could try out Brainstorm, but we don't have anything to shuffle right now. But I'll try it out. Another new card in the cube, so we'll try it. If we get anything that shuffles our library, we're going to want to take it really highly now. We did wheel the Archmage Emeritus, so again, I'll take the new card to the cube. And I do think this could be really good in our deck. If it doesn't immediately get killed, it does draw a lot of cards. We have 8 instants and 1 sorcery right now. And now we'll just grab another sorcery, because I don't love Godpharaoh's Gift unless you have a lot of creatures in the deck. We don't have that many. Compulsive Research, yet another instant or sorcery to go with the Archmage, as well as a great draw spell. That was a loud sound. I don't even know what we picked. Torbran? I guess that was the Torbran sound there at the end. Okay. So now... Pact of Negation is just the most annoying counterspell ever. It is nice to be able to counter something while holding no mana up. Definitely considering that. We're the kind of deck that wants a lot of instant speed stuff to do. And, I mean, that one we don't have to hold any mana up for in the first place. Yeah, that's probably better than, like, Disdainful Stroke. There's not a ton going on in this pack. These black cards are pretty aggressive, so they're not really for what we're going for, the Skyclave Shade and the Crypt Breaker. Take a Pact of Negation. Ooh, Noxious Gearhulk. That seems like the strongest card to me, although this pack is really good in general. There's Noxious Gearhulk, a 6-mana 5/4 with Menace. When it comes into play, we destroy a creature and gain life equal to its toughness, so an absolutely massive removal spell when it comes into play. There's also Crippling Fear. Just 4 mana, choose a creature type. Creatures that aren't of the chosen type get -3/-3 until end of turn. Yeah, I mean, that's a thing, Ryvoke. How have you forced them to use it, though? I guess, like, use this or you die, but then the same could be said if they just had a 5-mana counterspell in hand. It's like they would just die because they didn't have the mana to hold up the counterspell. But yeah, Noxious Gearhulk, I'm going to take that for the huge end of the battlefield effect, but Crippling Fear is also definitely an option. A potential, like, Wrath effect off of that -3/-3 to all creatures. Now, Demonic Pact has never worked for me. I've tried it multiple times. It always ends up being too slow or too fast. Commit to Memory. Yeah, I kind of like Commit to Memory here. It's a good card against like mill decks. Shuffle the whole graveyard back in and draw 7, and it's a decent little interactive spell against anything for 4 mana there. So I'll take the Commit to Memory. But yeah, Demonic Pact, I've never managed to do anything great with Demonic Pact, so that's a thing. Are we the mill deck? Do we take Ashiok and we just go for that mill there? No, I think Gonti's a really fun card and a little less rude. Look at the top 4 cards of your opponent's library, cast their best spell. I guess you don't cast it immediately, you just get it into exile and then you can cast it later. Super good card in the cube, again, just because everything in everyone's deck is so powerful. So Gonti's just great. Also a 2/3 Death Toucher is just a super solid blocker on 4. Ashiok is a powerful card, but I'm going to take Gonti. Gonti's just more fun. At least in my opinion. All right, Erebos' Intervention is going to be a great removal spell. You get to give -X till end of turn and gain X life. So really good against aggressive decks because you get to kill something and gain some life to stem the bleeding. Pretty happy with that. Vraska's Contempt seems awesome. 4 mana instant, exile a creature, planeswalker, gain 2 life. Super good removal spell. We also have a counterspell of Neutralize here, but I think Vraska's Contempt's better than that. And Augur of Bolas would be good in this deck, but again, Vraska's Contempt is just such a good removal spell. And we are definitely heavier into black than blue here. We're not doing anything with Archfiend's Vessel, we're just not bringing things back from our graveyard. So the only thing we would play here would be Cosmos Elixir. Take the Cosmos Elixir here at the start. I don't know if we'll be playing that. I like Mire Triton better than Stitcher Supplier. Stitcher Supplier, the self-mill is just not something that we're interacting with. So Mire Triton at least has Death Touch and gains some life. I don't really like God Eternal Bond too if you're not in a deck with a lot of sacrifice fodder, and we don't have a lot of sacrifice fodder. But yeah, black definitely wildly open, so I'm definitely happy that I swapped into black in that first pack. Because we're getting great stuff. And here, like, the only black cards that were in this pack have just wheeled back to us. And they're not even the kind of cards we're that interested in because they're both pretty aggressive, but I guess we can take a Skyclave Shade. Yeah, just black is wide open. Just all open. We might even be able to randomly be mono black again at the end here instead of blue black. I guess we'll see. Nightmare Shepherd, the bigger card in terms of its impact if you're not super aggressive. So I'm taking the Nightmare Shepherd over the 1-drop there. I guess I'll take Demonic Pact here. I guess there's a blue-black duel. Zagoth Triome. Yeah, no, I just don't like Demonic Pact. I've tried it so many times. I like it so much at face value, but every time I play it, I don't like how it ends up. So we'll take the blue-black dual land. So how much black do we actually have if we cut blue entirely? I don't think we should because some of our blue stuff is like the strongest cards in our deck, like Thief of Sanity, Torrential Gear, Hulk, Slumgar's Command stuff. Kind of like Seagate Stormcaller better than Cruel Reality. Cruel Reality is another one of those cards that's always been a little too slow for me. But I don't know about Seagate Stormcaller, that might also be too slow. But the idea of on turn 4 playing this and then playing Doomblade and killing 2 things, that seems pretty good. So that might be a thing we try to do. Okay, we don't quite have enough enough cards to be mono black here. And even if we did, I don't think we should be because, again, some of our blue stuff is like our strongest cards. So definitely Thief of Sanity, Slumgar's Command. I want those in here. Might not want Pact of Negation because it does cost the double blue to not die to it. Probably want Torrential Gear Hulk because that thing is just so high impact. But that might be it. That might be the blue that we want in this deck. I guess we should probably cut out the more aggressive black cards at this point and get all in on the controlling game plan. And from there we can see we'll probably have some more room for some more blue cards because probably cut Gutter Bones. Probably Scrap Heap Scrounger gets out of here, Skyclave Shade. And then now all of our creatures just have really good enter the battlefield effects, or they're very annoying blockers. Like these Death Touchers here on 2. Gaunty's a Death Toucher with a really good battlefield effect. Nightmare Shepherd's not great if you don't have a lot of creatures, so that might be a cut as well. And then our 6 drops are just our big game-ending, massive enter the battlefield effects. Just recasting another spell, just getting great value off of Torrential Gear Hulk and Noxious Gear Hulk. Massacre Worm potentially wiping the board. Yeah, I think we cut these. We're definitely like a value kind of grinding it out deck here. So throw 4 cards back in from blue. Oh, we're not going to play Village Rites. We don't have enough creatures for that. We're going to cut that as well. I guess we do get to throw the Pact of Negation back in. We don't have anything that shuffles our library, so Brainstorm's not very good. Pretty much on par with an Opt, which is not very exciting. Throw a Compulsive Research, Salon Division. We can throw the Archmage in, because again, we have so many instants in the deck, and then we can throw Commit to Memory. Maybe throw the Great Shark in, then we have to cut one other card here. Maybe the Stone Coil Serpent. Maybe the Elixir. Although this does seem like the kind of deck that can sit behind an Elixir and just chill as you draw more removal spells. We have so many cards to deal with stuff after it hits the board. Because we have a bunch of Death Touchers to block anything that's not flying. And then anything that is, we've got just like removal for the Mauling, Heartless Act, Doomblade, Vraska's Contempt, Erebos' Intervention, Fatal Push, that maybe we don't need so many counters, so Pact of Negation could be a cut as well. By so many counters, I mean the one counter spell. You know, I'm just going to cut the Stone Coil Serpent. We can keep the Pact. Oops. Keep the Pact and the Cosmos Elixir. I say that, and then I accidentally misclicked and cut the Pact as well. Okay, so Dimir control it is this time around. Let's make sure that our mana's all in order. I don't think I actually want the Field of Ruin. If this were a best 2 out of 3, I'd be happy to have it, so that I could sideboard it in sometimes. But since I'm a 2-color deck here with some difficult mana costs where I need double black on turn 2 for Aetherborn and Sign in Blood, double black for all these cards, double blue for these. Like, yeah, we've got some pretty restrictive mana costs that require a lot of a specific color. So the colorless lands are a bit rough, and I think Field of Ruin is going to come into play much less often than Crawling Barrens. So if I want to cut just one of the 2 colorless lands, I'd cut Field of Ruin before I cut Crawling Barrens. And I might even want to cut both. But I do love me a Crawling Barrens. Keep it in for now. We'll see how often I'm getting mana screwed off of a certain color. Okay, so we have 15 black cards and 9 blue cards. We have 7, 8, 9 black sources, 9 blue sources. Cut another blue for another black here. I think this seems pretty fine to me. I don't want to cut on my blue that hard because all of our cards that cost 2 blue mana are pretty high impact, so we want to hit them consistently, like the Archmage, Great Shark, and Gearhulk. But with just 10 black sources, we do have to kind of consider Gifted Aetherborn more of a 3 or a 4 mana card, same with Sign in Blood. But I think I'm fine with that. Still looks like a pretty good curve. And solid deck here. So let's see how the Dimir control rolls. Again, I don't know what's going on with the colors in the deck boxes, but apparently this is green, black, blue, and red. Maybe I just don't have a white card in the sideboard, but I have one of every other color. And that's what's going on there? I don't know. So I'm going to keep this. If my opponent is very aggressively, this could pan out poorly for me. But if we're playing against another mid-rangey or controlling deck, I think this hand is pretty serviceable. We want to hit 6 mana with this hand, so I'm kind of interested in just dropping Salundi Vision as the Salundi Isle. Yeah, I'm just going to do that right now. Play the tapped land turn 1 so we can play our untapped land turn 2 and hold up Heartless Act. Although we do have double black cards on turn 2 like Sign in Blood and the Death Toucher, so maybe better to just play the Swamp turn 1 so we might be able to cast a Sign in Blood immediately if we drew it. So I'm killing that Palladium Mirror because it taps for 2 mana, so they'd have like 6 mana next turn, which is pretty terrifying to me. So I'd like to hold off from doing that. Turn 3 here, the only thing we can cast is Sign in Blood, so let's just go ahead and do that. Now we do have a Pact of Negation, but we only have 3 mana, so we have to wait a couple turns before doing that. So Rowan resolves. Rowan also not that scary. If they get to the ultimate, that's bad. But Silumgar's command can destroy a Planeswalker, and we can destroy her before they do, which is good. So 4 mana we could cast Hagra Mauling, so I think I want to play an untapped land again. And I'll play the Crawling Barrens. By playing the Crawling Barrens, I can cast Hagra Mauling if I need to, and if I don't, I can spend the 4 mana and just put a couple counters on this.
Art and combat aren't so different.
Hopefully they play a creature with 3 or less toughness here so they can kill whatever they play and Rowan off of our Silumgar's command, because we're going to have to kill Rowan before they go to their turn. Or they can ultimate. Alright, yeah, let's just put counters on the Crawling Barrens. And then try to cast a Silumgar's command in our turn. They have 2 mana up, 1 white and 1 red. So they're not going to have a counter spell, but they might have something to like save the Warkite Marauder. Let's see what happens here. Doing this now before they untap their lands and have more to potentially interact with this.
Now, I'm really angry.
Well, we've got the mana for a Noxious Gearhulk next turn, which is great if they do play another creature, but they're on like blue, red, white. There's probably not a lot of creatures here. Gearhulk is not great if they're not going to cast a creature. So do we play Temple of Deceit and Thief of Sanity? Seems pretty solid. We can hold up the Pact of Negation, of course, because it's 0 mana. I don't know if I want an Erebos' Intervention. We already have Hagra Mauling and Noxious Gearhulk to kill creatures. Commit to Memory also slows down. Yeah, no, I think I want more like threats, because they're probably going to kill Thief of Sanity and then I'll have to get something else out to try to close the game. I expect they just have like 3 damage to a creature here. A lightning bolt or something like that. Nimble Obstructionist, a flash flyer. Fine with that. That'll make our Noxious Gearhulk really good next turn. Bone Crusher Giant. Could counter that with Pact of Negation. Then I have to spend my next turn spending all my mana to not die. I don't think it's actually worth it. Because then they just don't attack with Obstructionist. We don't get the attack out of Thief of Sanity, so next turn we do absolutely nothing. And at that time they've got the flipped Treasure Cove. They draw cards off that. They're very likely to just draw more removal to kill Thief of Sanity anyway. So it's like a huge tempo swing against us if I just counter that Bone Crusher Giant. Whereas here, now I can just drop a Gear Hulk and kill the Nibble Obstructionist. Even if they remove Gear Hulk with some kind of removal, we're fine, because Gear Hulk has accomplished something good by getting one of their creatures off the board. And we still get to hold on to Pact of Negation for something that might actually, like, kill us instead of just slowing us down. Phoenix of Ash. That escapes from the grave even if we counter it, so we allow it. We're hoping to... Definitely hoping to draw like exile-based removal to kill that. Although commit works as well, just put it back into the library and then shuffle it away. There's the Bone Crusher Giant. There's the Archmage. If I cast this, I have 3 mana up to play around with. I don't think that's enough. I think I need to hold up commit. So probably just don't cast anything here. Go for the trade on Bone Crusher and commit the Phoenix of Ash. How good is just dropping Cosmos Elixir? It's not great. How much damage does the Ash do? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 mana. They can buff it 3 times. They can do 8 damage to us. I guess we do survive another hit from that, and we can hold... Gear Hulk to trade with Bone Crusher Giant. If we get this Archmage out, we get to draw a lot of cards when we start actually dealing with their threats, which can draw us into exactly what we need, like the exile-based removal. Yeah, we're going to take a lot of damage here, so life gain on Cosmos Elixir is going to be really huge to get us back in. Okay, we can't let that resolve. Or we're dead. I guess not technically. I guess we take 10 and go to 2, but still can't let that resolve. Means Phoenix of Ash actually probably kills us because our mana's a little too tied up now. But thanks to the Archmage, we drew another card there, so we're closer to drawing into an out here. 6, 7. We need to have something that for 3 mana can stop an attack from Phoenix of Ash, so any removal that costs 3 or less works. We got one more draw step to do it. Well. Nope, just die to the Phoenix of Ash, unfortunately. We only have 3 of the mana we need for the Hagra Mauling, so we can't cast that here. Unfortunate one. The fire breathing on that Phoenix of Ash is too much. And it turns out the Archmage play was, or the Archmage play was too greedy. Should have just committed instead of casting the Archmage to get the Phoenix back into their deck. Slow it down, give us a little more turns. But the fact that the Phoenix could come back from the grave, we had so little we could do there. We had plenty of removal that we could just kill it, but then it just comes back. And we had the counter spell, we could counter it, but then it just comes back. And it's haste every time, plus the fire breathing. Phoenix is definitely just not the kind of card that we could deal with there. Playing against blue-white here. Get our Mire Triton out. Probably Compulsive Research here next turn. Skittering Surveyor from our opponent. Got a Fatal Push. Does 2 to something. Or kills something that costs 2 or less, so that doesn't kill Skittering Surveyor. play my Gifted Aetherborn, or I can just draw some cards. Just gonna draw some cards. Try to get to our Great Shark mana. Ooh, and now we have a Gear Hulk as well. So we have 5 mana in hand, even if I discard this Swamp, so we only need to draw 1 more to get to Gear Hulk. We have all the mana we need eventually to play Great Shark. Seems pretty good to me. Can play an Archmage here. Probably gets killed or countered, but we do get one of those out of the way, and we have nothing really to hold up at instant speed anyway, so yeah. Just get rid of a removal spell here, take a nice little 1-for-1 trade. Get rid of a Supreme Will, it looks like. Cloud Blazer's the play from our opponent, gain a couple life, draw a couple cards. Now we have a Thief of Sanity, but we also have Voracious Great Shark, and multiple removal spells. So, I'd rather just hold that up. Cast one of these things. Take 2. And we'll counter a Yorion. Get our 5/4 onto the board. Crawling Barrens. We do have Celundi Vision or Heartless Act in graveyard for our Torrential Gear Hulk to use at instant speed, which is great. So I think we just play this. Send in. Hold up the Torrential Gear Hulk as an instant. Or any of the literal instants in our hand. Destroy all creatures. We don't have a counter spell, do we? No, this doesn't counter. No counter spells, so we just say sure. Yeah. We'll get some counters on our Crawling Barrens then. Set up a new threat here. Just play a Thief of Sanity and hold up 4 mana to cast a push, an intervention, or just put more counters onto the Crawling Barrens. Exclusion Mage to put the Thief of Sanity back in our hand. Alright, can still just recast that, so that's fine. Now we have Pact of Negation. So we do have a counter spell. At 7 mana here. Kind of just want to do the same play with the Thief of Sanity, see if they have their counterspell now or not. I mean, they know we have it in hand, so if they're holding a counterspell for Thief, they're not going to counter our Gifted Aetherborn if we run that out first. Alright, the counterspell, we can counter their counter with Pact of Negation, but if we do, we have to spend our whole next turn just paying that off. So I don't think it's actually worth it when we have Torrential Gear Hulk coming up. We're going to have just another big threat. Go ahead and kill that right now with an Erebos' intervention. I can also just make Crawling Barrens bigger. Try to kill it here. If they want to counter us killing their 2/2, that's fine. So that works. There's Approach of the Second Sun. So yeah, we packed that so it goes to the grave, and we don't have to lose to that. Well, I'm very glad I held on to my pact. I could still hold up like Doomblade or Fatal Push after using a Crawling Barrens, so they probably kill it here, but we'll see. If they don't, we just smack in for 1,000,000. It's their own Torrential Gear Hulk. Well, I can kill that before it can block, but they still get to cast something from their grave. Cast a Supreme Will. Oh yeah, I guess they don't have any removal in the grave. They can only cast instants, so they have a counter spell or a draw spell, so they just go for the draw spell. Sure, we can let the draw spell resolve and then kill Torrential Gear Hulk before it can block, so they can't trade with Aetherborn or anything. We just get in for the full 8 damage. We have lethal next turn if they don't have any removal, but after drawing whatever they wanted out of the top 4, they probably do. But next turn, Crawling Barrens can hit in for 8 plus 2 from Gifted Aetherborn gets there. Skyclave Apparition. Alright, well, Fatal Push will kill that because they'll make our 2/3 leave the battlefield, which means Fatal Push kills something that's 4 or less, so we kill that and then get a 2/2 back out of it. But they do have the Sagiri Shelter to save it from that, at least. So we can Crawling Barrens and attack in probably forces a block here. I mean, they could also go to 1. But we don't have the mana to activate Crawling Barrens twice to make it a 10/10 and actually force the block. If I Torrential Gear Hulk, I can kill that, but then I don't attack in this turn. Yeah, I think I would rather just bash in here. They go to 1 or they have to chump block. So they go to 1. The Immortal Sun, they draw an extra card every turn. Planeswalkers can't do anything, all that kind of stuff. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 mana. We can activate Crawling Barrens twice. We can also activate Crawling Barrens and go for the Commit to Memory, which would be lethal if it resolves. Cycle a cast out, 2 mana up. Alright, it resolves, so we do get to slap in for 10 there. Puts us to 1-1, I think? Yep. 1 win and 1 loss for the Dimir deck. Of course, Magic Online, or Magic Arena says it's a 4-color deck. Arena's just been on a roll with the weird random bugs lately. This is a very solid hand. Multiple removal spells, so it's pretty interactive. Sign in Blood draws us some cards. And we are going to be against an aggressive deck, so it's a good thing we've got these removal spells. But for now, I'm going to draw a couple cards. Grim Lavamancer only does 1 damage to us for a while. Has to wait until they've filled their graveyard with some cards to start really shredding our life total. Shadow Spear. So they can give everything lifelink. For 3 mana, I could cast a Compulsive Research, but I need a blue mana to do that, and Castle Vantress comes into play tapped, so I think we have to just play the tapped land here anyway. Yeah, I could understand that for Constructed, but in Limited, it's really just every deck is just going to say it's 4 or 5 colors. It's being all kinds of unhelpful for sure. Alright, just spend the mana to throw that on a Lavamancer and send in an attack. I guess we get to just Doomblade that now and kind of just end the turn. guess I'll Heartless Act it, because they're more likely to be able to get a +1/+1 counter on something than to have a black creature. When I see 3 lands, I kind of expect... When I see 3 mountains, I kind of expect mono red. I guess they could be Rakdos aggro, and if they are, would have been better to Doomblade first and hold on to the Heartless Act, but... Feeling fine here. I'm going to draw 3, discard this swamp, because we're looking for islands now. We have triple black already for Massacre Worm. We don't need triple blue for anything. Maybe I do discard an island here just because I have so many black cards. Yeah, I'll actually discard an island. Only needed the 1 more blue source, whereas with black, because I have more black cards than blue cards, I could have turns where I need to spend 3 or even 4 black mana in 1 turn. Goblin Ruin Blaster! Oh god, punished. Punished for discarding a blue source, but I've got another, so it's whatever. But now I do need another blue source to get that Great Shark out, but I think even without it, we've got a pretty great hand against what they're doing here. I kind of want to make them just discard a couple cards here, because we can, on turn 6, get a Massacre Worm or a Noxious Gear Hulk, and that'll really get us back into things. If they play enough creatures here, Massacre Worm should be just really good. But if they just have like the 1 Ruin Blaster Gear Hulk as well, getting a creature of our own out and killing theirs, it's pretty great. Definitely like the inscription here. Yep, gets rid of 2 non-creatures. I'm a fan of that. Gets rid of Insult as well, so they can't like surprise us, double all the damage for the turn. Just gaining some life. Right, no more creatures from them yet. It's a little awkward. That means Massacre Worm won't be so insane, but it's still fine. Just past the turn here, multiple instant speed removal spells, so we are nice and safe. If we're not about to take 1,000,000 damage, I'm not going to cast any of them because I could just kill the Ruin Blaster with Massacre Worm when it comes into play. Rather cast the Massacre Worm first because Noxious Gear Hulk can kill anything. Massacre Worm can only kill stuff with 2 or less toughness. So that is the plan here. We'll take 4, go to 8. And a Soul Scar Mage. So we actually do get to get the 2 for 1 and kill 2 creatures here. Spin the Massacre Worm wheel. Let's go. Whee! And the field is gone. They did gain a ton of life off of the Shadow Spear, though, so they're still at above 20 after Massacre Worm dealt 4 damage to them there. So now we're just worried about them having like a Banefire or something, so ideally what would be best for us is them playing a high toughness creature so we can cast Gear Hulk, kill it, and gain a large amount of toughness. That would be the best case scenario for us. Cast an Injury on the Massacre Worm in our face that does 2 damage to us. Pillar Flame does 2 more damage to us. Lightning Bolt does 3 more. If they top deck a single burn spell, we're dead on the spot, but Erebos' Intervention does gain a bunch of life off that removal spell. Noxious Gear Hulk gains a bunch of life off that removal spell. I think I just attack in, and then I pass turn here, and if they top deck a big burn spell, we can Erebos' Intervention our own Massacre Worm, give it -4/-4 till end of turn to gain 4 life. So we are essentially at 5 right now, so unless they have specifically like Banefire, we can survive by just Erebos' Interventioning here. And actually, even if they do, because we do have 7 mana, so we can do -6/-6 and kill our own Massacre Worm if we need to gain 6 life. Vraska's Contempt, exile creature, planeswalker, gain 2. We're still on that same game plan, holding up all of our mana for the big life gain if we need it. Chandra creates a couple 1/1s. They deal 2 damage to us. So we're going to have to Erebos' Intervention here to survive this turn. But then we can just kill Chandra.
Anyone need a fire started? No? Too bad.
I could Vraska's Contempt her, but the way that Planeswalkers work, they get 1 ability out of it no matter what. Okay, they choose the 1/1s.
Hey, these little guys are great.
I guess I have enough mana here to just kill 2 of these 1/1s instead. Instead of interventioning, but they're just around for 1 turn anyway, so I think I just intervention 1 of them for the max amount of life. 5, 6 is the max here. So we go to 7 and take 1. They're down to 7, so Crawling Barrens just makes lethal. I totally forgot that Massacre Worm's effect, making them lose life, isn't just the turn you play it, it's just forever. So, thanks to Massacre Worm's effect, those little 1/1 elementals dying just pushed us to lethal that 1 turn. I was still thinking about the game plan of just like exiling the Chandra and gaining 2 life off Vraska's Contempt, so that way we go up to like 10 life there. We're nice and safe against whatever. Yeah, no, I think they also forgot about Chandra's -2 effect. Or not -2 effect, but they also forgot about Massacre Worm's second effect and probably should have done the -2 and just went for the Lightning Bolt to face instead. Or something like that. That would have forced me to use... I mean, they didn't know what was in our hand, but that way if I don't have any life gain, I die the same way. If I do, I have to just cast a life gain spell and they don't take any damage. I forgot this is blue and black. I should just play the Triumph. Get the tapped land out of the way immediately. I'm usually pretty diligent about that, but... I guess we might actually be cycling it this game. Ah, no, punished hard. Punished hard. If we played the Triumph turn 1, we'd have turn 3 Thief of Sanity here, which is just always a good time. Alright, we got that removal out of the way for that not to hit Thief of Sanity. Ooh, we actually got an Aftermath card in our grave. That's pretty cool. Commit to Memory, so we can cast this to have everybody shuffle their hand into their library and draw a new 7. So if we cast all our stuff way faster than they do, that might actually be a thing. Kind of like Cosmos Elixir here over the Thief of Sanity. Playing against just mono white here. They got a Mentor the Meek out. They played a Swift Response. I feel like they're more likely to have a way to just kill Thief of Sanity than they are to kill this Cosmos Elixir. And if they don't kill the Cosmos Elixir, we just draw an extra card every turn. And we draw a card the turn we play it. No, Cosmos Elixir seems pretty awesome here. No matter what, we draw a card right now. So they have a Castle Ardenvale now to spit out some human tokens whenever they're not doing anything else with their mana. Pretty good combo with Mentor the Meek. If they have the 6 mana up, they can spend 4, tap Castle Ardenvale, and then spend 1 more to draw a card. So if the game goes long, that'll be a fun value engine for them. Although we do have like Erebos' Intervention if we need to kill the Mentor to stop that. Dauntless Bodyguard, so they can sacrifice the Bodyguard to give Mentor indestructible till end of turn. Of Of course, -2/-2 will get past Indestructible, as will Massacre Worm. -2/-2 to the whole field. That is going to be a massive play. I think we definitely want to set up for a Massacre Worm next turn, so we're just going to play a Triome tapped. Now we have 5 mana out. Next turn we play this island. That's our 6th mana. We get to just Massacre Worm and go ham. Do we play the Thief of Sanity here or hold on to Intervention? I think I'd rather just play the Thief of Sanity. Not a real reason to hold on to Intervention when everything already has 2 or less toughness. It's all going to die to Massacre Worm anyway. This is going to be a big Massacre Worm. This card is performing really well in terms of how it did last game, and then this one, it's looking to set up for a really big play. Again, wouldn't be surprised to see them use something to kill the Thief of Sanity here, but if they can't, Thief of Sanity will be incredible, as always. Mentor the Meek, giving them some good value here, so even if we do Massacre Worm them, it's not the end of the world. They have drawn some cards off of casting their cheaper creatures, so they're not like out of cards after a Massacre Worm here. Basri Ket, so we'll be definitely trying to kill that after we Massacre Worm them. We'll be attacking that Basri. Just get the Planeswalker out of here. Unfortunately, putting a +1/+1 counter on the Grateful Apparition means when it hits us, it turns into a 3/3, so it won't die to Massacre Worm. So there's one creature that is going to survive past the Massacre Worm, unless I sacrifice Thief of Sanity. I don't think it's worth sacking the Thief of Sanity there. I think we just take this all, let them proliferate. They get to keep a Grateful Apparition after Massacre Worm. Yeah, Basri won't die because Basri's going to be 5 loyalty now. Basri will just go to 1 if we attack Basri with everybody. There's no possible card we could draw off of Thief of Sanity that we would rather play than Massacre Worm here, so I'm just going to drop it down here, but I guess I should have waited just in case we drew something crazy off Thief of Sanity and wanted to cast that instead, but I just think that's incredibly unlikely. Basri just puts counters on stuff. Or creates 1/1/1. So they get a single +1/+1 counter on a card. They create 1/1/1. I think I'd rather just race them here. Slap in for 4, put them down to 10. Especially with Massacre's ability making them lose more life when I kill stuff. We can definitely race well. We have a life gain Elixir out. And we have the Massacre Worm draining them every now and then. Just let Basri do his thing, get some counters on stuff. Alright, here comes Grateful Apparition. That's going to turn into a 4/4 as well as put Basri to 6, so they can do the ultimate. But again, just kind of puts counters on stuff.
I hope you are proud of our...
Yeah, just get a 1/1, put counters on stuff. We can definitely outrace that. Ancestral Blade. They did kill our Massacre Worm, which isn't ideal. But we still have Thief of Sanity drawing cards off of them. We can kill their 1 blocker here to hit for 4 this turn, which I think is worth it. So let's go ahead and do that. Playing our cheapest removal spell so that we can cast something else here. Including but not limited to Voracious Great Shark. Ranger of Eos and Ministrant of Obligation. Both seem pretty fine. Guess Ministrant probably a little bit better for us just because it's cheaper. We could cast Ministrant and Hollow Blade if we want. Gets really close to killing them because then we have 4 creatures out. They're going to have 2 because of the Basri emblem. They're going to get a 1/1, then they're going to have Apparition and 1/1. They have to play more cards from hand to survive. I'd rather Great Shark and potentially counter something, or just play 2 creatures out here. I'll hold on to the Great Shark here, because with Great Shark we can also cast Erebos' Intervention to kill Grateful Apparition if we want to, but we'd have to choose that during their upkeep, so I'm probably not doing that. But it also lets us intervention something else at some other time. Yeah. If we want to Erebos' Intervention Apparition, this is the last possible chance, because they're going to get a +1/+1 counter on it.
You are brains in us. Your allies will support you.
Could be worth it, because the Proliferate's going to get bigger the larger their field is. But I am choosing to hold on to my shark because I like sharks. They're just passing the turn here. So they get a creature from Castle Ardenvale, so they have 3 blockers. So we just cast Voracious Great Shark, and then we Erebos' Intervention and kill the Apparition during our turn. Then they just have 2 blockers, and they're both small. Yeah, that's the one card we've got here, and if we want to get in with Thief of Sanity, we have to do that. If we want to play around a +2/+2 combat trick, we can, but we can't play around any bigger combat trick. And if I just spend 5, I can hold 2 mana up. So I can actually cast like a Seasoned Hallowblade this turn as well. So I'm just going to go for 5 and see what happens here. So that I can cast this as well as casting a Seasoned Hallowblade or whatever we hit. Alright, they just didn't have a trick there. So we attack with everybody and just keep laying down creatures every turn. And now Bosri's Emblem looks really insignificant every turn. They basically just get 1 2/2 chump blocker. We do have Cast Out to kill the Thief of Sanity, so we don't get to draw cards off of them anymore. But they do go to 1 life. We still have a couple cards we've drawn off of them, so we'll drop down the Hallowblade. And thanks to all the life gain from Erebos' Intervention, we'll be drawing 2 cards a turn again, thanks to Cosmos Elixir. Now we're drawing in our draw step and our end step. So our opponent's at 1 life. We got the 2 creatures on board. They're going to need a removal spell and a blocker, or 2 blockers. Well, they do have the 2 blockers. The Bosri Emblem giving them 1 of them, and the Starnheim Unleashed giving another. So we need to draw a removal spell to win on the spot. Pact of Negation doesn't do it. We are still drawing extra cards every turn, which is pretty big. Do we want to cast a Memory? If I cast Memory, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I have 3 mana up. If I draw a removal spell that costs 2 or less, I win. If I draw like Doomblade. Although if I draw Heartless Act, I don't. Memory does give them a new hand too, which is sketchy. I think we just cast Ministrant of Obligation and use Cosmos Elixir's ability to draw extra cards every turn to hopefully just get to a turn where we're casting more stuff than they are. We can scry with Castle Vantress in their end step, or cast this Selendi Vision. Selendi Vision probably better. It digs 6 cards deep if we're looking for removal spells. History of Benalia, that gives them another blocker. Let's see what we get off Selendi Vision here. Vraska's Contempt, that costs 4 mana. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We have enough mana to cast Vraska's Contempt and pay for Pact of Negation, so we could Pact to counter History of Benalia. And then we can Vraska's Contempt one of their blockers. Because they're going to have 3 of them. So if we Vraska's Contempt 1, they have 2 blockers against my 3 attackers. And that is the concession from our opponent. Putting us to 3-1 with the Dimir control deck. And we've also got some random packs from just leveling up Mastery and stuff. So pretty great run with this deck. Definitely glad that I pivoted into black, and pretty happy to have have ended up taking that Thief of Sanity over whatever black cards I was thinking about going mono black for, because we certainly did not see enough reasons to really be completely mono black. We didn't get a Phyrexian Obliterator or Grey Merchant of Asphodel or any of those kind of like really big mono black payoffs. So I do like the blue in this deck a lot. Has let us play some of the more powerful cards in here. All right, well, I mean, turn 2 Aetherborn. Eventually we get that Gear Hulk out. That's always great. I will be keeping this hand. And going for the turn 2 Aetherborn. Probably going to have to play Selendi Isle here, though. Although there's the first blue source, so maybe not. If we're really lucky. Ooh. OG Counterspell. We draw into Inscription of Ruin. Could just make them discard a couple cards just right now. Which I think, again, a Mind Rot actually seems pretty good right now when they've got 4 cards in hand. Discard half your hand. Just go for the Mind Rot. The only other thing we would do here would be to either bring back Gifted Aetherborn or just cast a Selendi Vision. So I'm just going to go for the Mind Rot. Neutralize. So if the Mind Rot resolved, they would have discarded Neutralize and another card, so they're like, might as well counter it then. Cosmos Elixir is always good in a controlling matchup like this where we're not very likely to take damage, so we'll slam that down immediately. So we can start drawing more cards than them and probably just overwhelm them with our card advantage, hopefully. And with all this instant speed stuff, real easy to just pass the turn here, drawing another card in our end step. Again, a Cosmos Elixir out is very likely to give us enough card advantage to win the mirror match here. So Cosmos Elixir, a huge, huge, huge card to have drawn for this matchup. Yeah, pick up a Pact of Negation, why not? I got plenty of removal. Now they know we have Pact of Negation, so they'll be able to play around it and try to play their weakest cards first, but still, even knowing we have it with us drawing 2 cards a turn and the massive amount of like removal and stuff we have here, it's going to be a very uphill battle for our opponent. Now we get to start dumping counters onto Crawling Barons and still holding up all of our stuff. Ooh, Archmage Emeritus. Don't want that Triome. Kind of like slamming this down. I don't get to hold up the mana for a removal spell here, but they're not really playing any creatures, so we'll just dump out 2 creatures of our own. If they try to Doomblade Archmage, we can counter it and draw a card off of the counter, which I'll go for. Now we have to, of course, spend 5 mana in our next turn. So we're not doing much next turn, but we're drawing a million cards here. I do need to be a little bit worried about milling myself, but of course, that is what Commit to Memory is for. We can use memory to shuffle our whole graveyard back in so that we do not mill out. Scholar of the First Trove allows them to cast Doomblade again from their grave. Or actually, Magma Opus. Totally forgot about that combo. They did discard that Magma Opus for a treasure token, so they get to play this really big spell, kill both of our creatures, get a 4/4, and draw a couple cards. Yeah, that can definitely turn things around here. Being able to cheat that Magma Opus back. Tap the Cosmos Elixir, send a message. I like the play. All right. Well, gotta take a lot of damage here, so Cosmos Elixir is going to stop doing what it's doing, because we can't afford to kill any of their stuff right now. Suppose if we had held up Erebos' intervention instead of playing our 2/1, we could have exiled their Magma Opus in response to them casting Scholar, which would have been hilarious. But I had no idea about the Scholar plus Magma Opus combo being in their deck. Chandra, Awakened Inferno, of course, uncounterable. really good planeswalker in a control matchup.
Other things to burn.
Just spam those emblems onto us.
Let's get toast.
Really shred our life total off of that. Torrential Gearhulk's the draw. That is a really good draw. Play Salumgar's command, destroy a planeswalker and give -3/-3 to something else, or return a permanent to hand. We can kill Chandra and kill their elemental token if we cast Salumgar's command with Torrential Gearhulk. It's pretty good. We have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 mana, so we can cast that and hold 3 mana up. 3 mana, of course, not enough to kill Scholar or do anything like that, though. If I just cast Noxious Gearhulk and kill Scholar, that's also pretty good because I gain 5 life and get the flyer off the board. I kind of want to just main phase the Noxious Gearhulk, kill the Scholar first, and then Torrential Gearhulk later. But I guess if I do that, they can kill our Gearhulk with Chandra's -X. No, this Chandra's a pretty huge problem. Probably just go for the Torrential Gearhulk. And Salumgar's commanded up.
I'll try to come back for you.
But we are taking 5 now in the sky, as well as the 1 damage from Chandra's emblem in our next turn. Down to 10. But they didn't have a counterspell last turn. If they still don't have a counterspell, Noxious Gearhulk could definitely resolve here, which will kill that Scholar. Unfortunately, Erebos' intervention only doing -2/-2 right now is not going to kill Orange, so they do get to draw the cards off of it this first time. They choose land and draw 2 cards off of it, so Alrend is very big now. Alright, luckily though, I have enough mana to cast Noxious Gearhulk and another removal spell, so we'll definitely do that. Gain a ton of life there, and we'll gain a ton more life in our end step and throughout these turns. So we know they have 2 lands and 2 other cards. I think things are starting to look pretty okay again after that pretty big swing from our opponent of Magma Opus into the Chandra. That was pretty threatening, but things look okay now. They do have Archmage Emeritus with Behold the Multiverse, so they are drawing a ton of cards. Definitely keeping up with our card draw, even off the Cosmos Elixir earlier, which is very impressive from our opponent. But we have a guaranteed way to get 10 damage out here, just by killing that mage. We can even find lethal thanks to Crawling Barrens here, if they don't have anything for that 1 black mana. We just spend the 3 to give that -2/-2, and then we activate our Barrens and hit for 14. And there we go, Crawling Barrens for the win. Again, Crawling Barrens has been putting in absolute work. Definitely happy to have picked that as highly as I did, because I do think it is a really strong card, and it's definitely better in like a controlling deck like we've ended up in, because our games are often going to get to the point where we have that extra mana to be throwing some counters on it now and then, to where it does just close out the game like that. So, Crawling Barrens, kind of an MVP here, doing some very good stuff. So 4-1 heading into round 6. Really nice stuff from the Dimir control deck. We do have another turn 2 Gifted Aetherborn. We also have Sign in Blood to hopefully draw us into the lands we need to get to our Great Shark. But all of the black cards are castable. They're all 2 mana or less, so I'm going to keep this one and see where it ends up. Do have a Noxious Gearhulk coming up. We're going to need a lot more mana to get to that, but that is always a fantastic card, as we've seen. Just a huge 2-for-1 with a great enter the battlefield effect. We're playing against a blue-red deck, and even the pathway is a blue-red pathway. So maybe just blue-red. Young Pyromancer is the play. Definitely a solid card in these blue-red decks. They tend to play a lot of instants and sorceries. So I think we're actually going to Doomblade that before we even pass the turn to them. Keep them from making any little 1/1 elementals and spreading their field wide in that way. So let's Doomblade Young Pyromancer before they untap. Okay, we've got our 4th mana now. We've been pretty lucky on the land draws. That means we get to play Sign in Blood and Mire Triton for sure. We'll cast Sign in Blood first and see what we draw into. See if that changes anything. Nope, but these are great draws. Great draws for our future turns. Get in there with that life link and gain a little more life off the Triton. These creatures are pretty small though, definitely very easy for red removal spells to kill. Only have to do 3 damage to kill our biggest creature right now. Perfect. I was going to say I would really like to hit an island so I can just hold up Great Shark. Because I don't love playing Thief of Sanity out here still, because we are against blue-red, so I feel like Lightning Bolt, Lightning Spear style effects should be very prevalent in their sort of strategy, especially when they start with Young Pyromancer. So I don't really want to run out the Thief of Sanity for a little while here. Hopefully they throw some kind of burn spell at one of these cards, and if they use 2 of them, that makes me feel extra safe about dropping down a Thief of Sanity. If they use only 1 of them, I feel like they could still be holding on to 1 more. I'm just going to hold here. Great Shark should be a decent bit harder for them to kill than the Thief of Sanity, so just running it out in their end step, even if they don't cast a creature spell, should be okay. And if they do, it's going to be really good. Okay, I'm very glad I didn't run out Thief of Sanity, because there it is. There's the removal. That would have killed the Thief of Sanity right there. They're just going to go to the end step. Well, I'm going to dump down a Voracious Great Shark here. If they cast any big creature spell, I can just kill it once it hits the board with Noxious Gear Hulk anyway. So let's just keep our threatening position up to where we can smack in for 5 here. Looks like they go for the Memory Lapse, which keeps us off attacking with that for a turn, but we can just run it out again this turn. They do know it's coming, which means they're not going to try to play any creatures this turn. Not the worst I've ever been memory lapsed. Ooh, they got the black source, so blue, black, and red here. Grixis it is. Of course, with Chromatic Lantern, they do already have perfect mana, thanks to that making all their lands tap for a mana of any color. But now that I know they're playing black as well, I wouldn't be surprised to just see a Doomblade or something like that on the Great Shark. We'll definitely find out here. Disallow, just counter it permanently this time. Fair enough. So now they're less likely to have the removal. Do I want to play the Archmage first? I feel like I have to play Thief of Sanity first, because if we cast this Archmage and they don't have removal anymore, we're not getting anything out of this unless I top deck an instant or sorcery immediately. Thief of Sanity, if I cast this and they don't have the removal, we get to start going off, smacking them every turn, getting a good card. So I think we'll go for that. They've used a lot of stuff. Disallow, Memory Lapse, Command, Dragonfire. So we're at that point where we might have fought through a decent amount of the removal. They could still have something, but even if they kill Thief of Sanity, by playing Thief of Sanity first, that gives us more time to actually draw into instants and sorceries to make the Archmage actually matter when we play it. Like if we draw Pact of Negation or something, then Archmage is actually just a really good play next turn. Of course, Magical Christmas Land here. The best case scenario here is our opponent tapping out for some big creature. I don't know why they would, but like a Dracuzeth or something doesn't seem like the kind of thing their deck would be doing, but maybe. If they do that, we can just Gear Hulk, kill it, get that Thief of Sanity attack, and have an excellent time all around. Worst case scenario, of course, is they just have more burn. They just play like Electrolyze here and kill Thief of Sanity, draw a card. Tybalt's pretty bad. Tybalt's pretty bad. This might be worse than the worst case scenario that I mentioned. Because now they just get to cast our own Thief of Sanity against us. Tybalt's a very, very strong card. Super good Planeswalker if you can get to that 7 mana to run it out. And another one of those cards, like Thief of Sanity, that because it allows you to play cards from your opponent's deck, is even better in Cube than any other format because the cards are just so much stronger. So the +2 on Tybalt just being incredible as well. Drawing them 2 cards, 1 from each deck. Well, now I'm super worried. If I cast Gear Hulk right now, I'll have a 5-power Menace creature out to maybe kill Tybalt with. But if I cast Emeritus first, then I get to cast Gear Hulk to kill the Thief of Sanity, so Thief of Sanity doesn't go off. We're stuck between a rock and a hard place here. Either way does not work super well. They draw into an Erebos' Intervention as well. So even if we had played Gear Hulk, they just get to Intervention it away. Alrund's Epiphany to take an extra turn, get a couple 1/1s. Ooh, wow, things got really out of hand here. This is disastrous. This is just an absolute loss here. So 4-2 it is. Our opponent has gone off. Tybalt with extra turns as well to draw even more cards, drawing all of the removal from our deck, Fatal Push and Erebos' Intervention. So they're very safe, got a lot of stuff to hold up there. And Tybalt, of course, getting 2 turns to +2. It is all the way up to 6 now, so even more impossible to kill. Although Massacre Worm, a really great draw here. We do get to just wipe their board. But again, now Tybalt can just exile the Massacre Worm, and now they have a Massacre Worm lying in wait when they need to cast that. Well, I guess they do the draw too. They've drawn Heartless Act. All 3 of the draws from our deck have been removal. But that's kind of how our deck is. It's a lot of removal, so... We're working against ourselves so hard here. Our deck is being so rude. Demonic Tutor as well in their deck. Of course, to tutor up the powerful cards like Tybalt. Definitely a card I'm very excited to play around with in the cube. Have not drafted it yet. Commit some memory. We can actually get rid of Tybalt for 2 turns. And I kind of have to do that if I want to have any chance whatsoever here. Because if I don't, they get to exile all graveyards. So now they just draw 7 plus 11. They draw 18 cards if we pass the turn. Because they do that -8 and they can cast everything in exile from Tybalt's emblem. So we can't let that resolve. We have to commit Tybalt. They have a counter spell here. It's like nail in the coffin over. But it's already over, let's be entirely honest here. Alright, they do have the counter spell. X equals 2, meaning that we have to spend 4 mana to counter that. With the way that Thassa's Intervention works, so... Commit does not get cast. And they are going all in on the greed here, go for the +2 so they can keep Tybalt out. Don't even immediately go for the ultimate. But not much we can do about it, just draw into the land here with Noxious Gear Hulk. The game is very locked down. That was a really nice Grixis control deck from our opponent. Definitely got out-controlled there. A lot of nice cheap removal in red to keep them alive for the late game. Blue being some counter spells to stop your opponent from doing anything scary. And then, of course, the black splash for the Tybalt being the massive Planeswalker to try to close things out. I think the only way we could have won that game after them casting a Tybalt would have been if we had any of our Planeswalker removal immediately. We do have Silumgar's Command and Vraska's Contempt being our 2 best cards for that situation. So we are on the play here. Not a particularly fast hand, but I still like it. We have a nice draw spell from Compulsive Research, as well as a few instant speed removal spells to use, Hagra Mauling and Erebos' Intervention. Now we even draw into a Doom Blade, which is always nice. Playing against blue, red, white. Could be any combination of those three. And a Maze Mind Tome on turn 2 looks like another probably controlling deck here. With Rogran Triome, Island, and Maze Mind Tome out so far. Turn 3, we do draw into a Mire Triton. Don't think I want to play that out here. I'll just cast a Compulsive Research. I might even end up discarding this Mire Triton. Because we didn't get to just curve it out on turn 2, it is a lot worse later in the game. Let's see. Yeah, I'm probably going to have to do that. Discard Mire Triton Salundi Vision here so we can keep the land. Although, not a matchup we're likely to see a ton of creatures from our opponent, and Erebos' Intervention does cost a lot of mana to do, so could discard Erebos' Intervention and I guess Mire Triton so we can hold up our instant speed effects next turn, and if they don't do anything, we just cast Salundi Vision. And Salundi Vision also works as Salundi Isle, if we need that as our second blue source. So yeah, I kind of like just discard the removal spell, discard the Death Toucher. They're not likely to be relevant for a while against a blue deck. That starts with a Maze Mind Tome. Although, maybe a 5-color deck here. We do see a blue, red, white land, followed by blue and black mana. So, get this Crawling Barrens out here and pass the turn. Would have been a fine turn to play the Salundi Isle as well. But then we don't get to hold up Hagra Mauling if we want to do that. But we do hold up Doom Blade, worst case scenario, if we have to kill something. Still holding out hope. Fingers crossed to draw into a blue source so that I can actually cast Salundi Vision and get value off of that. I don't think I'm holding on hope for that strong enough to where I want to cast it here, because if I don't draw my blue source this turn, I'm just going to play Salundi Isle. Alright, because I do want to make sure I have the guaranteed Torrential Gear Hulk mana on turn 6. Not that it's likely we'll be running out Gear Hulk on turn 6, but just being able to is definitely good. We do have one instant in our grave, but it's an X mana one, so it's not good to copy off of Torrential Gear Hulk. So blue, black, and white from our opponent. It's possible that the Rogran Triumph is just in there as a blue-white duel, although we do see a golden egg as well. Draws a card when it enters the battlefield, and they can sacrifice it for a mana of any color, so that is another kind of little mana-fixing card there. Redain, God of the Worthy. Non-creature spells we cast with mana value 4 or greater cost 2 more to cast. So we cannot cast Vraska's Contempt or Hagra Mauling to kill that, although we can cast Doomblade to kill it, so I think I might as well. Just get that out of here. And now we get to hold up a Salumgar's Command or a Torrential Gear Hulk. Would like to kick an Inscription of Ruin eventually, that'd be pretty decent, but definitely don't have the mana to do it yet. We only have 6 mana and it requires 7. But now we get to hold up a counterspell for a non-creature spell. Although, we only really get to use this as a negate. We only get to use it as a counter non-creature spell because these extra effects on it, returning a permanent to hand, giving something -3/-3, or destroying a planeswalker, none of those matter right now on the board state. If we bounce a Maze Mind Tome or a Golden Egg, they just get to draw more cards off of those, so we don't want to bounce any of those. And it looks like they're just going to pass turn. Well, this is going to be a weird matchup. We're both just going to draw cards and pass turn here for quite a while, probably, because we're not going to cast a Torrential Gear Hulk if we're not getting something out of it, I think. I guess we could, so we can start hitting them for 5. Like, that's something. But I don't really think I want to. I'll just get some counters on our Crawling Barrens. If we're both just sitting here doing nothing forever, eventually Crawling Barrens will be able to turn into a 2020. That could be the plan. So we didn't draw land this turn, so we still have 6 mana, not quite enough to kick an Inscription of Ruin, so we'll just be chilling still. But having them discard a couple cards and get a Mire Triton back from our grave is going to be decent. Although I guess at this point, I mean, they have so much mana to play something big, we would still rather hold up our counter spells than try to kick Inscription of Ruin. Patient Rebuilding. That is going to require a counterspell here. Yeah, there's no way I let them just start milling us forever. So I think we have to just cast Slumgar's Command and just counter a non-creature spell, because we don't want to bounce their artifacts. Oh, do I have to choose to? I do have to choose to. Oh no. I would have to bounce one of their artifacts if I do that, so do I just cast Commit then? Put that back into their library, slow them down here? I guess I do. Because if I Slumgar's Command and I target either of those to bounce, they can scry off Mazemind Tome, then put it back in hand, play it, start scrying and drawing off it again, or they can just recast Golden Egg, draw an additional card off of it. Either way, I'm giving them good value doing that, and I don't want to do that. Alright, because of the scry on Mazemind Tome, they can just literally immediately recast Patient Rebuilding, but then we can Torrential Gearhulk and cast Commit again, I suppose. We could also just cast Memory, but we already both have like 7 cards, so the only reason would be to shut off Patient Rebuilding, and we'd be completely tapped out forever for whatever else they want to do that turn, so I don't love doing that. I think we still want to hold up our mana and be interactive here. If our opponent is playing a pretty creature-light deck, this is likely to be a pretty bad matchup for us, just because, you know, I'm seeing right now we have plenty to interact with creatures, but our opponent just has not been even attempting to play any for a while now. Patient Rebuilding again, so we go for the Torrential Gearhulk and cast Commit. They probably have removal for our Gearhulk, so it doesn't get to bash in, but even if they have removal for it, we do get to cast Commit here. I guess I could cast Memory instead, but then they do actually cast the Patient Rebuilding, so that's not good. It's a really interesting. I forgot that Torrential Gearhulk works that way. If the front half of your Aftermath card is an instant, you get to cast both parts. So Heartless Act in response, just because, I guess. Heartless Act, of course, to kill the Gearhulk, but doing it in response doesn't change anything there. Four, 5, 6, 7, 8 mana. Get Mire Triton back with Inscription. Or I can just make them discard here. If I do that, I'm holding 5 mana up, so I can still hold up Slumgar's Command. Yeah, I mean, at this point, we're not getting very much by kicking this. And anytime we kick this, we're not holding up our instants. Probably going to have to bite the bullet here and actually just let them recast their Golden Egg and draw an extra card just to make sure they can't Patient Rebuilding us. Oh boy, this is really the hard control mirror match where we both just have a stack of removal in our hands. Gonna be a long match, that's for sure. Again, things aren't looking great for us here because we are having to go down in terms of the amount of value we're getting by giving them more value and letting them draw extra cards when they cast Patient Rebuilding. All of that stuff is not panning out well. I don't know, maybe we'll draw a Pact of Negation or something. That would help a lot. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I have to spend 5 minutes. 1, 3, 4, 5. I can't attack with Crawling Barrens and hold up Salumgar's command. And next turn is when they draw Patient Rebuilding. So I can't attack with Crawling Barrens this turn, but I do have enough mana to cast Salumgar's command and make Crawling Barrens bigger. At the very least, we're just 1 mana away from attacking with it as well. They have got the full draw 4 cards off the Maze Mind Tome. Again, that is where things are really stacking up in this matchup. Just the amount of value they've gotten off of their draw spells here is pretty good. Sphinx of Foresight. Okay, so they're not going for Patient Rebuilding here. Now I can wait, so I might actually be able to Salumgar's command, put Sphinx of Foresight back into their hand and counter Patient Rebuilding. So I don't have to bounce their Golden Egg yet again. But we get multiple counters on this Crawling Barrens. Temple of Deceit to scry. Noxious Gearhulk's pretty good. Do we let them? Yeah, we just let them because they just scry 1 card, so we can let them scry 1 to maybe actually get the 2 for 1 off Salumgar's command in the opposite direction. If this Sphinx of Foresight dies, if we kill it, then we're 2 for 1ing ourselves, as I've been saying, giving our opponents an additional card draw. Nothing. What is going on? Alright, so they're not going to cast Patient Rebuilding then. We have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 mana. With 10 mana, we don't have enough to cast Noxious Gearhulk and hold Salumgar's command back. Bounce your land with command? Oh my god! You can bounce your land with command. Alright, well that's good. I didn't know this thing could bounce lands. That does change things. So we can go for the full counter on Patient Rebuilding. I'm so used to these cards never letting you bounce lands. Thank you for that advice, Ryvoke. Alright, if that's the case, I think we can just kill Sphinx of Foresight then. I'm going to use Hagramoling because it kills less things. And then we'll put more counters on Crawling Baron. And we'll go to our turn and hold up Slumgar's command again. Crawling Barons. The second that thing actually tries to attack as a creature, it's going to get killed hardcore. It's going to get absolutely demolished. So I'm still going to wait on it there because they have all their mana untapped. I'm not going to send in against that. Could wait till maybe they tap out at some point. Or at least tap out more. I am happy with our opponent playing more creatures here so I can actually do something. 10 mana, I do need 1 more mana to... I need 2 more mana to Gear Hulk and command in the same turn, so we'll Rask his Contempt. Pay the life here. So, we could have Salumgar's command and countered Patient Rebuilding a long time ago. If I realized I could just bounce a land. And then we wouldn't have to be playing this back and forth game of hot and cold. We're all just like daring each other to do something. Ooh, that's very good. Now we get to draw a card off Salumgar's command whenever we do that. However, if they immediately try to kill this, then I guess we don't. Yeah, they could counter it here. We could counter their counter with Salumgar's command, but again, we're down to 18 cards. Patient Rebuilding is absolutely going to shred us. Like, mill in the mirror match is just devastating, and I have to hold the counter spell to stop that. I might be able to get an attack out with Crawling Barons here. But then they get Patient Rebuilding out. If I get 2 attacks out of Crawling Barons, I do just win. Maybe the play here is to activate Crawling Barons and just hit them for 14, because they have 1 mana up. I guess if they have Swords to Plowshares, I cry a lot. But then they know I'm tapped out, so they get to cast Patient Rebuilding. But if they cast Patient Rebuilding next turn after getting hit for 14, they only have 3 mana up, and they know I'm going to attack with a 16/16. Let's go. Let's go, Crawling Barons. I mean, I guess if they have Swords to Plowshares, I gain 14 life, so it's not the end of the world, but does stop that whole game plan. Alright, so they know I'm tapped out. They know they get to resolve Patient Rebuilding if they want to do that. They go for Approach of the Second Sun. They only have 2 mana up. If they don't have a 2 mana removal spell for Crawling Barons, this is lethal. I hate this so much. If I spend this mana and then they have a removal spell, I'm gonna shit myself live on stream. F. F. Yeah, we're gone. We're super dead now. Patient Rebuilding's resolved. We only have 16 cards left. They gain life off Cloud Blazer 2. I mean, I guess... No, I mean, Noxious Gearhole Gonti is still pretty huge. Well, Gonti first in case we hit removal. Yeah, Gonti was a really good draw. Gonti lets us grab their Approach of the Second Sun, so we can't die to that. So we're not, like, literally dead. But I do have to take this Approach, or I'll die to Approach. Do I hold up the mana, or do I just Gear Hulk here? 16 cards, I don't have a lot of time playing against Patient Rebuilding. I get milled 3 a turn, so mill 3 plus draw a card every turn means I'm dead in 4 turns. Right, 4 times 4, 16. Oh god, I have 4 turns to kill them. I think because I have 4 turns to kill them, I kind of have to just get in there. And get our board very big. God, I wish I didn't go for the kill so badly right now, but that's always gonna be how it is when you make a play like that. It was like, do you have it or you don't? If you don't have it, you're dead. If we didn't buff again, we might have actually just slammed in for 16, put him down to 1, and then find the way to close it out here. Well, Slumgar's command now costs 7 mana, but we can still hold that up. We got nothing else in hand. Okay. I think we just slam in with everybody. It's a fine trade. I guess we could bounce our own Gonti and do it again. But I think we're still supposed to hold on command to counter a non-creature. Because we're hitting for 5 a turn, they're on a 3-turn clock. We're on a 3-turn clock as well, milling 4 a turn. They're going to try to make Blast Zone big enough to kill Gear Hulk. It's not going to be yet, it's going to be 4 counters. Still safe for now. We can bounce the Blast Zone once they do put enough counters on it to hold that off for a second. Of course, they know we have Silumgar's command, so they're not going to cast any good non-creature spells. They're going to try to bait it out first, if they have removal. Nine cards, we have 9 cards. Karuga. That's a creature, so we can't counter that. They are going to draw another card off of it. Nothing I can really do there. I could put Patient Rebuilding like back into their hand to stop them from drawing a card, but again, still holding the command for the counter spell aspect. Oh, Lord. There's another creature there. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's enough mana to cast that and Aetherborn. Get in with Menace here. I feel like they're just going to Blast Zone our Gear Hulk, which is unfortunate because that gets rid of one of our two most important cards either way. Either we Salumgar's Command just to put Blast Zone back in their hand, or we lose our Gear Hulk. I guess we can Salumgar's Command to put our own Gear Hulk back in our hand. If our plan is to bounce to stop Blast Zone from going off. Oh. Could bounce Patient Rebuilding as well, I guess, at some point. I think it's going to be too slow to bounce our own Gear Hulk to save it from Blast Zone. So if we want to not get Blast Zone, we bounce Blast Zone. It's like, theoretically, we could bounce our own Gear Hulk, but we're down 4 cards a turn still, and we have 8 right now. So we get milled 3, draw 1, milled 3, draw 1. I guess we do have 3 turns, technically, because we don't lose until we draw from an empty library. That actually might be a thing. I might bounce my own Noxious Gear Hulk. Sky Sovereign, Consul Flagship, 3-2 creature planeswalker comes into play. Well, I can counter that with command now. Then they get to Blast Zone my Gear Hulk. Control mirror matches are too complicated. I don't know what I'm supposed to do here at all. Could throw Patient Rebuilding back into their hands. So they have to spend all the mana to play it again. Alright, see you, Ryvoke. Thanks for hanging out. Always a good time. I think I'm going to bounce Patient Rebuilding so they have to, like, recast that. I could bounce Karuga as well. That's another option. Costs like 3 mana to sack this, right? Yeah, 1, 2, 3, tap, sack that. They only have 4 more mana up. They can't sack Blast Zone and recast Patient Rebuilding this turn. So that gives us a little more time there. So it's definitely a complex matchup. I think we could have found the win there if I were much more experienced with this kind of deck. There were a lot of little lines that I could have done better, like keeping the Salumgar's Command and casting that instead of Commit to Memory in the early game, because I didn't realize that we didn't have to bounce one of their non-land permanents. We could have just bounced one of their lands. That would have changed the course of the game dramatically throughout, so who knows what would have happened there. But then if we were continuing on this course where we had Salumgar's Command, I actually think, I totally forgot, because Gonti looks at their deck, it's like milling them as well. If we had bounced our own Gonti and recast Gonti, that could actually maybe even outpace Patient Rebuilding in terms of the mill, because of the fact that they have to draw a card whenever they mill one of our lands. So that was another thing we might have been able to do differently, but at this point now we're just dead. We get milled. Down to 4 cards, now we're down to 1. 1 final card left. And it's not going to get us out of this one. Yeah, it's just a Thief of Sanity is all we have left. A couple Angel Warriors from Amir's Call. Sky Sovereign gets to slam in for 6 here. Hit us for 11. Does that do 3 to a player? No. I mean, I guess we don't die from combat damage, but we do get milled. Actually, no, we do die from combat damage because we survive after drawing, and then they just attack us again. I don't know what they're holding on here. We are going to the next... I was going to say we're going to the next round, then I just realized I think we're 4-3. I think that ends this draft, so we're going to the next draft then. Yep, 4 wins and 3 losses for the Dimir control deck, so... better showing than the red-green deck, but not spectacular there. Just a solid deck overall. Again... not the greatest control player ever. I think definitely a couple of those games might have been able to go differently even if I had taken different routes. Ooh. Nice Tainted Pact from the Mystical Archives in our Mastery Pass packs or whatever. But either way, it was definitely fun to try the new strategy out. I think it went pretty well. I think definitely, as always, during the draft, I think the drafting portion went pretty well. I'm pretty happy with most of my choices in there. Ending up in black was definitely a better place to be than where we were starting out. And yeah, pretty fun draft overall. So anyways, if you're watching this on YouTube and you'd like to see more of the content, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all of those good things that let the YouTube algorithm know that you're interested in the content and you want to see more. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again very soon for more Magic Arena.